I've spent well over six figures on paid ads, and in this video, I'm just going to be breaking down exactly what I've learned and how that's going to help you. And so, yeah, as I said, over six figures on paid ads. This is exactly what I've learned. First of all, just going over what I've learned in terms of how paid ads actually work. And so, what I found with paid ads is you can see here, this is your audience. And let's just say the top 10% of your audience are people who purchase your program, your product, all that stuff. Now, with organic, what tends to happen is your whole audience just gets bigger, and still the top 10% of the audience are buyers, but you're at a bigger audience, and that's sort of the power of organic. Whereas with ads, what I find is your audience doesn't grow massively. What actually grows is your conversion rate. So rather than maybe let's say the top 10%, maybe it's the top 20% that convert. And so that's what paid ads are really good for, especially retargeting and that sort of stuff. Your conversion rate of your audience will go up massively. However, growing your audience, paid ads aren't the best way. Organic's a lot better, although organic takes a lot of time. And so the thing with ads is there's a few things that determine the results of the ads and determine how good the ad actually is. And so I just wrote them down here. So you've got your creative, your audience, your offer, and then your back end. So the creative, this is your visual component of an ad. So if it's a static ad, it's going to be the picture. If it's a video ad, it's going to be the video. And so that's the creative, probably the most important part. You've got your audience. So this is who you're targeting with the ad. So your audience is a specific group of people targeted by the ad, often based on some sort of characteristic. Let's just say if you're selling supplements, this group of people are all gym goers. That's your demographic. Number three is the offer. And so this is obviously your proposal to the customer. Let's just say with the supplements, 20 grams of creatine for X amount of money, a little bit different if you're selling like consulting or something. And then another one that's massively underrated, massively, and it's something that I struggled with a lot, and no one really talks about it, but it's just the back end, the behind the scenes operations. No one really tends to talk about it, which is very strange because this has a huge impact on ads, a huge impact. And so I'll also dive a bit into that and how to optimize that for ads. So if we scroll down here, I'll go over the creative first. And one thing that's often not said is these things are massively important because if not, these things, you're just wasting money on your ads. These things are what build the ads. And if not, you're just chucking money down the drain. And so it's massively important to get all of these right. And now you can have great ads and not have all of these, which are very profitable. But if you do have all of these, even if you do all of these decent, your ads will print money. Print money. So we'll first start with creative. Now, creative's obviously probably the hardest one to get right. It is very difficult and it does take time, but here's some characteristics that you need to be mindful of and make sure you have in your creative. And so number one, especially in today's platform, everyone's swiping 3 seconds into a video. You need a really good hook, something that stops people scrolling. And so I'll explain what these are and then I'll go over a good hook, a bad hook, and so on. So you need people to stop scrolling. Next, what you need to do is once people stop scrolling, you need to retain them. So you need them to actually watch your video because if you stop them from scrolling, they'll start watching the video and they'll just swipe off anyways. It's pointless. Then you need to agitate a pain point of your customers. And what I mean by this is, let's just say we're selling a pre-workout, for example. Your ideal customer might be someone who goes to the gym but never has energy because they work long hours and your pre-workout is the fix. If you can agitate that pain, people are more likely to buy and your ad's more likely to be profitable. Then you also need to position your product as the fix, and this is ideal in the ad. If people don't think your product is the fix, they're going to watch the ad and then skip. If they think your product's the fix, they're likely going to either go check out on your product on your website, book a call, or something like that. And so a good hook, just an example, would be like a visual pic of what they want, so the results. So for example, if you're selling consulting on how to grow your business and you send it and you have a picture of you making 500k in a month, well, that's a very powerful hook. People will stop scrolling, people will be like, what's this guy saying? And so on. Retention, this is quite hard to do, and you definitely won't win everyone. But yeah, be direct. You need to have some value in there. So be direct. What I mean by this is rather than beating around the bush and not talking directly, you need to just say what you're doing pretty much and say what you're offering. Value, you need to give them value so they feel like they've got something from you and they're more incentivized to buy. If you're just selling a product, they don't really have any reason to buy from you. If you can give a ton of free value, then they're likely, oh, if he's giving this value for free, what's his paid program or what's his um, paid product like? And incentivize them to keep watching. And so you can do this by talking about like something that comes later in the later in video. You can, like I said, provide value. There's a ton of ways to retain them, but that's what you need to do. Agitate pain, like we said, so sick and no energy in the gym after a hard day's work, working long hours, 12 hours. Well, the supplement, blah, 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 blah. Agitates the pain, you're the fix. And then position, obviously, your product as the fix. And so you could be like, I was just sick of no energy in the gym after I was working 12 hours days as an electrician, blah, 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 blah. I had no energy for the gym. I was the same as you until I discovered this one pre-workout. This pre-workout, blah, 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 fixes your problem. And so that's the creative side of things. That's really important. So that's one thing to really dial in. Next is your audience. Now, this is nowadays it's super simple. Back in the day, it used to be a bit more difficult, but usually 99% of the time, the best thing to do is just let Meta or YouTube take your targeting. So rather than focusing on trying to do specific interests, Meta have done it so well that they just know what's the best customer, and so leaving them to make the decision is often best. Um, so yeah, they do have better targeting than you. Simple, the best platforms know what works best. By and large, if you have a good creative, it'll get to the right people. And if it's a good creative with the other things, you position your product as a fix and so on, you'll make money. Something that is worth a test though is just testing the retargeting ads. So this retargeting is pretty much people who've been shown your ad, you go back or Facebook goes back and shows them more ads. Oftentimes you can do this with a really small budget, like 20, £30 a day, depending on your spend, of course. But sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't work. But it's worth a test, especially for such a small amount. If it works well, you've found a gold mine and you've spent a little bit, so it's really good. Next is your offer, and this is up there with creative. This is just as big. But one a mistake I see a lot at the moment is people have no clear direct offer. It's sort of like they try and position themselves as a fix, but they don't tell you how they're going to fix your problem. And so the wishy-washy, I did X, Y, and Z, and this is how I can help you, but I don't know what I can help you with. So that's something to be careful of. You need a clear direct offer. I can help this person achieve X outcome by doing X, Y, and Z. That's the best way. And these are the variables that you should really be thinking of with whether you're making an offer, whether you're dialing in your offer, all that stuff. So these are from Alex Hormozi. I'm sure everyone knows who he is, but yeah, these variables. So your dream outcome, what does the customer actually want? If they want energy in the gym, that's what you should sell them. You shouldn't sell them pre-workout, you should sell them energy in the gym. Perceived likelihood of success. So if they believe that it's going to work for them, you've got a ton of testimonials, you've got a really strong guarantee, and you're very specific in their problem and how you fix it, that's you onto a winner. And yeah, building them up over time increases the perceived likelihood of success from your customers, more likely to buy. Time delay, how long until they see the results? Obviously, the faster you can get them the results, the more valuable it is. If I said to you, tomorrow I could make you £1,000 versus I said in a year's time you'll make £1,000, obviously tomorrow is more valuable. Effort and sacrifice, how hard do they have to work? And so if you can sell them, let's say, a supplement that they take and instantly to feel energy, well, that's very strong. And it takes very little effort, very little sacrifice. Whereas if I told you you can be a millionaire, but it takes 5 years of following this program, it's very grueling. Even though the outcome's a millionaire, the likelihood of them following it is not very high, meaning it's less valuable. And so yeah, that's the offer. And next we'll just go a little bit into the back end. And this is huge. This is really what took my business from five figures to 6, 7 figures. So it's your back end. And there's a few different ways to do this, but what we need to remember, something that's forgotten a lot, is ads are what get people in the door. And so if you spend £100 on advertising, you get 2 people in the door, and then 2 people refer 2 more people. Well, even though, let's just say you broke even on the ads, you spent £100, these 2 people paid £50 each, you break even. But if they then recruited 2 more people, you've actually got a 1 to 2 ROAS. And so that's something that people don't really appreciate enough. But the way you can really squeeze the juice out of people is through the back end. So feedback loop. This is huge. The people who join, if you ask them for feedback, if you incentivize them to give constructive criticism, and then on the back of that, you improve your product, then you can charge more, and these people will get more value. And so, yeah, things like them referring friends and so on is a lot easier. Reviews and testimonials, another huge thing. If you incentivize people to leave you reviews, this is huge. And then if you also incentivize people to give you testimonials and you use them testimonials on your website, this goes back to the offer, and you'll increase the perceived likelihood of success. Now, people don't often leave reviews by themselves. No one really, buys something and then decides to leave a review. It's often pushed, whether you send them an email, you ask them for a review, and so on. And so I've just included that in the back end. It's really good to incentivize people to leave your reviews, positive reviews, of course. Next, depending on your product, so if you're like an e-com store that's selling, I don't know, let's just say car wash stuff, you'll probably look for a bundle. If you're selling something like a consultant program, you're probably looking at an upsell, let's say like a mastermind or something. But in the end, increasing AOV makes ads a lot easier. AOV meaning average order value. This could also be lifetime value, but it makes like ads a lot easier. The average person pays you £200, and on option A, and the average person on option B pays you £400. That takes your ROAS and doubles it, and so that's very, very important. And then we have referrals and affiliates, and so incentivizing people to refer others, this increases the ad's value massively. And if you can get a really good referral or affiliate program, and you attract affiliates through your ads, then that is just a money print, and it works really well. And the thing to remember as well is that your Facebook ads or your YouTube ads, they won't track when you keep going up and up and up. It's important to remember this. But yeah, that's essentially the main ways to build ads, the main things that you need to test, see what works well, see what doesn't. I wish someone told me this. It's a very simple framework. There's only 4 things. A lot of people try and sound really fancy and talk about all this fancy retargeting and all this crap. And really, if you nail these 4 things at a decent level, you'll make well over 100K, well over probably $1 million. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop me a subscription, a comment, and that sort of thing. If you do want my help implementing this sort of stuff, then you can go to my bio, book a call with me. Literally will be the most value you've ever had in your life. And yeah, I look forward to speaking to you guys. Take care.